Hello, this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Jaden Masters. From Bermuda, and I go to University of Louisiana Monroe. I'm on the soccer team there.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Jaden. You ready to get into the questions?
Let's do it.
All right, so you just kind of touched on it, but for those that missed it real quick, let us know where you're originally from, born and raised.
Yeah, so I'm from Bermuda, not the triangle. I mean, I get that a lot. Got to clarify it. So yeah, I'm from Bermuda. I was born and raised. My family lives over there. Everybody over there. And yeah, now I'm stateside. Been stateside for some years now.
All right, that's awesome. So when did you get started in soccer?
I would say about around 8 or 9. Pretty late for soccer players, honestly. I mean, I know a lot of my friends, they tend to start in when they're, little league, pee wee soccer. So yeah. Me, I started on the little latter side, but around 8 or 9, I would say.
All right. So what influenced you to start playing?
I mean, back home, soccer is it's one of the biggest sports. One of the, I guess, I would say between soccer and cricket, that's probably our two main sports over that side. And I was just around it. In primary school, my friends always played. So I think I want to say it was one year. I was like, well, if they could play it, I could play it. Like if they've been playing all this time, I could play it all this time.
Okay.
But then I had played golf, cricket, ran track and field, did track and field, played soccer. But my main two at the time was golf and soccer. And my mom had told me, she was like, look, like at some point you got to make a decision. So yeah, it ended up being soccer. I know my dad was a little upset about that too.
Yeah. So I would assume he wanted you to play what? What did he want you
golf,
to play?
Of course.
Golf. Okay, all right. Now, is there history in your family in those sports?
Yeah, no, my dad played soccer growing up. My mom played netball and softball. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like back home you find everybody played everything. Growing up, the island's so small. So it's definitely one way to stay within the community, and it's a hobby. It's something to do.
Awesome. So what were some ways in your youth you kind of got better at it? Like, what were some things that you did when you started? You said at the age of 9 or so. What were some things that you began to do to kind of grow in your game?
Yeah, no, I've always been a very driven person. So it was always I'm gonna put my all into it if if I want to pursue this. So I guess that's a tough question because it's like being from an island so small, the only way to improve your game and get better is leaving. And I left at the age of 13. That it was a sacrifice that had to be made. Being from a small island, in order for you to get the opportunity and the exposure, to get where you want to get to, whether that's professional or whether that's pre-professional or semi-pro, like whatever the case may be. If you wanna get to that next level, then you have to take that next step. And thank God, my parents were able to, sacrifice and do what they needed to do to get me to, that next step. But yeah, no, a lot of it is just, it comes down to hard work and how bad do you want it, right? If if I wasn't driven or if I wasn't dedicated to the sport, I could tell you my parents wouldn't have wasted their money sending me out to school. You know what I mean? But it was definitely something that I knew that I wanted to do in the long run. And now, look at me today. I'm NCAA D1. Thank God for it. But I know that if that step wasn't taken, then I wouldn't have been here.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about, I guess, a little bit about Bermuda, just for those that never been there, myself, don't know much about it, just to see the differences. So I think I was watching another interview and you talked about the size of it, square footage wise. And so I think for anyone that knows where I'm from, I'll kind of give a comparison. so they can see the size of Bermuda compared to maybe some of the cities here in the area. So how big is Bermuda?
21 square miles.
Wow, wow. And so for those that know, I'm in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area. I live in a small town right outside of Fayetteville, which is actually Hope Mills. So Hope Mills in itself is a small town. It's probably, I think when I looked, it was something like 8.6 square miles.
Mhm.
However, the main city that's right here, which I work out of, is Fayetteville, and it's 150 square miles.
Right.
So to compare it to the island where you're from, that it shows people the difference in size. And so you talked about, I heard you use the term primary school, and I guess I want to know how schools are broken up there because born and raised in the New Jersey area, we
Mhm.
went to school kindergarten through eighth grade for the most part, and then you went
Okay.
on to what we call high school. So you called it primary school. Now here in the North Carolina area, and even back home in New Jersey, now there's more schools where they go maybe kindergarten through sixth grade, and then kindergarten through fifth grade, and then maybe sixth through eighth is your middle school, and then you go on to high school. So break down the school break, how school is in Bermuda.
Yeah. So it's pretty much like the American system. I know that they're in the currently, don't quote me on it, but they're currently in the transitional period where they are taking out middle schools. So it's going to be just primary, which is elementary school per se.
Okay.
It's elementary school, and then you'll go straight to high. Obviously, those middle school years are broken up, so I'm pretty sure it'll go like one more to high and like two more to elementary.
Gotcha.
But as of right now, it's the same. I'm not gonna say the educational system is the same in terms of like the curriculum and what they're learning or whatnot. I'm sure it's similar.
Mm-hmm.
It's still grade school, and high school and middle school, but in terms of the actual like grades, grade school and all that, it's pretty much the same. Elementary, primary, sorry, elementary, middle, and high school.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. So we're going to talk about your transition from Bermuda here to the States. So I know you end up going to an awesome sports academy that's well known in the States. Definitely big with all their sports programs. But was that when you transitioned to the States when you came to school here?
Yeah.
Okay, so let us know, those that don't know, what school did you end up going to when you came over here to the States?
So when I left Bermuda, I went to IMG Academy, and I was 13. Yeah, I was 13 at the time.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. And what grade did you start when you went to
So when I went to
IMG?
IMG, I started in eighth grade. So
Eighth
last year
grade.
middle school, and then I finished out high school there. Ended up doing 5 years there.
All right. So what was that transition like? The schools in Bermuda, then coming here in the States. What was that like for you?
Yeah, honestly, if it was up to me, I would have left Bermuda when I was 10. I have been talking about boarding school. I was ready to leave in primary school. The opportunity ended up presenting itself. Thank God for it. But um, yeah, the transition, because I was so ready so early, um, it was it was pretty easy. I've always been that independent person. I've always wanted to do it on my own, growing up. Um, so, the transition period, I'm not gonna say it was like, you know, hands clean, dry and all that, but it definitely was, you know, it was something I was looking forward to. It was something that I wanted to do for a long time. So once the opportunity presented itself, it was like, let's go, it's time. At this point now, my parents just had that conversation with me. It was like, don't waste our time, don't waste our money. You know,
Right.
um, yeah, I got my priorities the same way they have their priorities. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they also have standards. So go out there and do what you need to do. And I did. Um, so yeah, not the transition. This transition period was cool. It was cool. It was cool.
All right. So was it easy for you? I could only imagine so many young students have to deal with the transition of going from one state to another, one town to another. Like you
Mhm.
went from an island, you were not in the States, coming here. Like what was it like getting used to? Like was there a big
Culture.
cultural difference and things like that when it came to school? and meeting new friends. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's still a cultural change and cultural difference. Every time I go back home and every time I come back here, I mean, you got people back home, they'll be like, man, leave that American out there, or because I kind of lost my accent a little bit. So they were like, leave that American out there. Or honestly, when I first moved out here, oh my goodness, nobody understood me. And I'm like, I was tired of people. What did you say? What did you say? What did you say? I'm like, at some point I gotta learn how to start articulating my words. Like now I gotta like how are these people gonna understand me?
Right.
But you know, luckily the team that I was on when I first moved out there, we were all the same age. And we were all mostly from outside of the country. So it just makes that transition so much easier. It's like, okay, cool. It's already like, well, you're gonna be out here by yourself, but then it's like, oh, cool. Well, the other 20 people on the team are also from, other states or other countries. Like
Right.
one of my good friends, she's from Senegal and Netherlands. You know what I mean? And her and I was in the same grade and everything. We started at the same time, 8th grade, and then graduated together too. So, it's not just me. And I think that's what a lot of people do tend fail to realize. Like, when you go to IMG, you around people that are from, further than Bermuda. Like Bermuda's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Like I said, JJ, she was from Senegal in the Netherlands. That's in your, like, you know what I mean, on that side of the world. Like,
Right.
so it's not just you. And I think that is something that definitely, definitely, definitely makes it 10 times easier. Because it's just like, okay, cool. You homesick. Well, she homesick, she homesick, she homesick. Well, we gonna get together and figure it out.
To make it happen.
We gonna make it
Gotcha.
happen.
Good, 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 good. So playing at an awesome sports academy like IMG, like what was the competition level like? And even, from the academic end, I want to start transition to just like what it was like for you from the academic end, but just tell us in totality, like what was it like going to a great prestigious program like that?
Yeah. It was awesome, honestly. It's hard to put it in words. I ain't gonna lie, because everybody there wants the same thing.
Right.
You're around other driven athletes, whether that's soccer, whether that's football, whether that's lacrosse, tennis, you know, everything. Like you're around everybody who wants the same goal. So even on those days where you're not feeling 100%, maybe you only got 70, cool. While the next man next to you, they might be in the same boat, but they're gonna push you to at least where you could get to, your best for the day. It was different though. It in a good way. It was different in a good way because I wasn't used to that. I wasn't around that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very competitive back home within the country, but you know what I mean? Back home, we only know within the country, and that even speaks in terms of like even national team and even when, how can I say it? I guess the other, like, when you play in teams outside of Bermuda, then you realize, okay, cool, well, it's bigger than just Bermuda. Now we're talking about a different level of competition. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's cool. It's cool to see it, especially looking back at it now. It's like, dang, you really did that. Like, you know what I mean? But like I said, you just around everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to be the best there. So all this it's just pushing you to be best. It's just pushing you to be great. It's just pushing you to want it more than the person next to you. You know. So it was definitely, it was awesome.
That's good.
I would
That's
go back any day. I'm actually going back to train there next week.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so I could only imagine, like I've seen pictures before of IMG, and I don't know, you've been on campus there. Like I've seen pictures, and I'm like, IMG looks better than some college campus.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't talk. And the crazy part is when I went there, they used to tell us all the time, like, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up. Like, this is, like, you're not gonna get this. Like, oh my goodness. I'm talking about I had 20, I want to say it's like 22 soccer fields to train on. You're not training on the same soccer field every day. Like, yeah, football had about three I want to say like not three stadiums, three practice fields. Lacrosse got their practice fields. It was awesome. It's awesome. I know the tennis courts, they've renovated since I've been there. And when I went there, they had just finished renovations. I ain't been there for what now, 4 years? Like,
Wow.
so it's awesome. It's awesome because honestly, my first time going there was in 20. I started in 2016. I think my first time going there was 2013, and even that period from 2012, 2013 to 2016 was like a looking at a whole new campus. Like it was like this wasn't this three
Right.
years ago. Like,
Right.
and now I've been on the phone with a couple people from back down there, and they're like, "Yeah, and it's changed within the last 4 years of you being gone." I'm like, "What more can y'all have added?"
Right. Right.
Now that I
That's
think they got a tennis stadium. They got an indoor dome now where you could practice.
wow.
Yeah, they expanded, and it's cool to see, because okay, I was once a part of that, and you always want to continue to grow. So seeing it, it's like I'm happy that I was a part of it, but I'm also happy to see what's next for the next generations to come as well.
So I will ask for your opinion. Most of the time, we get into it later on when it comes to choosing a school, but talking about such an awesome program like a IMG, I will ask you, like, what is your advice to the young athlete, no matter what sport it is, when it comes to going away to a program like that? Like, talk a little bit about, the academic setup as well as the practice setup. Like, do you believe it was definitely beneficial for preparing you for the Division I level?
Oh, most definitely. most the I mean, to give a little breakdown of my day at IMG, it was more tedious than my day in college. I would have school from 7:45 in the morning to 12 o'clock, and then from 1 to about 6 p.m. I'm in sport. Whether that's mental conditioning, leadership, nutrition, movement, strength and conditioning, if I didn't say it, soccer practice, like, you know what I mean? You get in that 1.5 hour period in between school and practice or whatever you have to eat lunch. And then by the time practice on 6 o'clock come around, now it's time to get in them books because you gotta wake up at 7 o'clock for school, you know what I mean? And that was every day. That was every
Wow.
day. You got one day off. It's literally just like college. It was identical to college. So my transition period was easy. I came in with a lot of freshmen that, found it difficult. As that's normal. You know what I mean? It's not. It would be abnormal if you came into college thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be easy." You know what I mean? It's not meant to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Division I sports isn't an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? But definitely, IMG prepared me in the best. I don't think I could have been any more prepared. Moving
Good.
from high school to college.
That's great. That's great. So, would it be safe to say, or playing at a school like IMG, is it pretty much a lot? Most athletes end up playing on a high level after that, whatever sport it may be. Just in the work that they put in there, are they typically you? And I know it always is going to take work on your part. I know
Mhm.
IMG doesn't give you an automatic ticket,
Yeah.
but would you say it puts you in a good position to play at a high level once you leave high school?
I mean, like you said, it comes down to the person. Um, if you put in the work after IMG, absolutely. Um, you know, if you're doing what you need to do on and off the field, absolutely. Um, in terms of how can I say it? In terms of it doesn't give you a ticket. It doesn't give you a straight ticket. Yes, it looks good. Yeah, IMG looks good to anybody. You know what I mean? It's the name. Um, but also I think because of what they do at the academy, um, it it puts you in a step into the right direction.
That's good.
And the stats speak for itself. I mean, you can look back and see the amount of professional athletes that go pro a couple years after, even a year after. Even you have some players that declare while they're in high school. One of my good friends, she signed a tennis pro contract before she graduated high school, while she was still a junior. I know a couple baseball people as well. So I'm not gonna say that it doesn't give you that step. It does, because it prepares you. But ultimately, like I was saying, it falls down on the athlete. Okay, well, how bad do you want it, one, and how far are you looking to go within the sport? Because everybody knows it's not, what I've struggled to realize recently, it doesn't last forever. At some point, you gotta hang up that racket, hang up your soccer cleats, put down that basketball. It's not forever, and I think that's what a lot of athletes, including myself,
Mhm.
fail to realize.
Okay. All right. So I will ask for you then. At what point while at IMG did you kind of begin to recognize that you were still going to have an opportunity to play on another level?
Uh, I don't know, because my story's a little different. I was injured majority of my time at IMG, honestly. My 5 years there, I competed my eighth grade year, obviously. Um, Majority of I'll say my eighth grade, my freshman year, and then my senior year. So I was out for 2 out of the 5 years, which, granted, looking back at it, isn't. I mean, it is long, but um, I don't know. I knew that after overcoming my injuries, that okay, cool. If I have the grit and the determination to get back on the field after going through what I went through, um, I could get to the next level, because it does take that grit and determination to get to the next level without injury. So if I could do it with injury, you feel me? I mean, humbly speaking, I had the talent. I have the talent. You know what I mean? So that was never going to be the issue. One, it was going to be staying healthy, but two, like I said, how bad do I want it? Do I want to put in the work to now get to that next level? Because everybody could say they want to go to a D1 college, or they want to go collegiate level, or X, Y, and Z, whatever the case may be. But if you're not willing to put in the work, then faith without works is dead.
That's right. Very true. Very true. And I'm glad you touched on that. I just want to talk about the injuries real quick because we're not talking about me doing some reading and watching some other videos. You're not talking about it. Jaden was out with a little hangnail or something. Like you had a very serious injury
Mm-hmm.
multiple times and you've had multiple surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it speaks to your strength, mental strength as well as physical strength, because so many athletes go through similar injuries and they hang it up. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have the push or the drive to continue moving on and working to get back at the sport, or they're never the same. But you did. Let's talk about the injuries that you had.
Where do we start? So I guess total, not I guess, I mean, I know, but total, I've torn my ACL 4 times. I've had 6 surgeries. It all started freshman year of high school, and then I ended up having one back to back. So it went right, and then it went left, and then it went right again. Um, Total, when I look back at the amount of time I was out, I was actually doing the math the other day. Total, I want to say like 3.5 years. Like, yeah, yeah, like about 3.5 years, and that's a lot. It is a lot, and it did take a mental toll on me. It still does. It still plays with my mind every now and then. But I don't know. Like I said, recently I've had to learn that it's bigger than just a sport. And I
Right.
think that's what recently I've been struggling with, almost that identity crisis. Understanding that I'm bigger than the sport. Understanding that, okay, cool. I might have been playing this sport majority of my life, but you know, it's bigger than just it's bigger than just a soccer ball. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I've had, like I said, I've had to sit with myself, sit with my thoughts, sit with God. You know what I mean? One
That's
on
good.
one, and understand that, like I said, it all ends one day. It at some point it has to end. But I do think me going through my injuries, that one of my main purposes in life is to inspire, and use my story to, let that next person know, like, you can get through it. You can. It it sounds bad. It sounds horrible, and it is horrible. Because I would be a fool to tell you no. It was easy. Like, it wasn't. It was many days where I was like, do I really want to do this? But then it ties back to, if I could do it once, I could do it twice. If I could do it twice, I could do it one more time. What's one more time after that? But then you also have to sit back with yourself and say, okay, at what point now do you respect yourself and your body? Because in the future, I do want to be able to run around with my kids. I do want to be able to have fun with my grandkids or whatever the case. You know what I mean? Later in the future.
Understood.
Um. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't. Especially because I did three of them in high school. You know what I mean? One happened while I was in college, playing national team, but outside of that, like, it was tough. It was tough. And I ain't gonna lie, this last surgery that I had, I ended up telling the doctor, I was like, look, after this, I'm done. Like, this is it. And luckily, to be honest, the reason I even had that last surgery was because the doctor had more faith in fixing the problem than
Right.
I had in getting back on the field.
Wow.
He had more faith. He had more faith in me, and then, had talks with my parents, and I'm like, if he sees it, then I got to see it for myself. Like,
Right.
why not give it one more shot? Um, you know, it's God's plan at the end of the day.
That's good.
And I'm heavy in my faith, and understanding that, look, I may not understand now, but later I will.
That's
Whether,
good.
that means this is my last collegiate season, whether, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I don't know what's next. I don't know how long I'm gonna be playing the sport. You know what I
Right.
mean? But yeah, it's been tough. It definitely has been tough. And I think the biggest part that I'm dealing with right now is just like that identity crisis, and understanding who I am outside of the sport, because it's been attached to my name for so long.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Again, I said it a few minutes ago, but it just speaks to your strength and just that drive to just continue, just keep pushing at it. And so I guess I'll ask you this. I know you talked about the last surgery and the doctor and how that kind of motivated you to push, but even the first couple times, like, was it about your passion for the sport or just your drive to prove that I can recover and get back out there? Like, what was it for you that drove you the other times prior to this last time?
Um, the first time it was like everybody tears it. Not everybody, God forbid, but you know, I'm not the only person. Like, if somebody else could recover from numerous ACLs, then what's one? And that was my viewpoint. I was also 15 at the time. I was 15. So I was young. I was like, man, this ain't nothing. This is 9 months. I get back, I'm 16. Cool. I can't even talk to colleges at this point. I'm good. Like, I'm in good. The second time it was, once again, people today sell 1, 2 times. I could do it too. Like, um, the third time was kind of like, damn, man. You had people back home, telling me, oh man, hang up your cleats. People were telling me hang up my cleats after the first time, let
Wow.
alone the second, let alone the third, let alone the fourth. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, like, I've even had coaches tell me, if I was your father, then I would, or if I was your father or your mother, I would, tell you to stop playing. So I think the biggest drive and the biggest takeaway I took from it was, I can't give somebody what they want. I'm
Got
not gonna allow somebody outside of a doctor to
you.
tell me you can't play the sport. So
Got
I think, one, it was proven them wrong, but deep down it was like, you really gonna let somebody doubt you like that? Cool.
you. Got you.
Cool.
Got
So
you.
yeah, I don't think it was any. I mean, yeah, obviously, like, I gotta love the sport in order for me to continue to go through the 9 month and the 12-month periods, but it was so much bigger than that. It was like, I'm not gonna allow you to tell me that I can't do this when I know I can because I did it before.
Wow, that's awesome. So I, it kind of leaves me speechless just hearing your strength. But I want to get into just the transition and choosing, your first stop in college. You're currently at a new university now, but I want to speak to how did you go about choosing your location to play, leaving IMG? How did that process go for you?
Yeah. So I went to University of Houston first. Was there for 3 years. Just of recent transfer. Well, just finished the process of transferring to University of Louisiana Monroe. Um, but it was tough. I'm not gonna lie because injuries played a part in it. So I had coaches, and then the tough part was COVID. COVID hit,
Okay.
so it was a blackout period. It was a period where I want to 2020. So I was coming back from injury. I remember actually vividly. I got cleared that February to play in a tournament in April. It
Okay.
didn't even matter because COVID hit.
Right.
So yeah, I ended up being down to a couple offers at the time. One of the schools that I really, really, really wanted to go to, was University of Florida, but Becky Burley had ended up retiring. So,
Okay.
that played a part too. And it was like, okay, well, now we gotta figure out what's next. COVID had that blackout period, couldn't talk to anybody. So I kind of had to go with what I had. University of Houston brought me in. I loved the coaching staff that brought me in. And then after my freshman year, they left. So
Okay.
we had a coaching change. And anybody that's in the collegiate system, whether that's any sport, honestly,
Right.
football, how coaching changes play a part. You know,
Right.
so obviously that played a part. But I played my sophomore year, and I was just ready. No, played my junior year because my sophomore year, well, I ended up being out because the spring season of my freshman year, I ended up getting injured. That was the last ACL, the fourth ACL, injured playing against Jamaica for Bermuda national team.
Okay.
So obviously I was out. Um, Luckily, my freshman year, my coaches had redshirted me though because it was the year after COVID. You didn't want to exhaust your eligibility. We had a 35-man roster because there was so many fifth year, COVID seniors.
Right.
So I think it was a blessing in disguise. But after the coaching change had happened, I knew that I needed to get film under my belt. So I had to play. I had to play. You know what I
Right.
mean? In order for me to get to, being able to transfer and get out. But yeah, I ended up playing my junior year. That was my first collegiate season. It was first collegiate season. It was like me being a freshman on the field. It was my first
Okay.
time um getting the jitters out, getting my feet back wet, getting my feet under me. And then the same semester I had national team. So I would say overall the season went how it was supposed to. It mightn't have been the season I was hoping to have, but it was enough to give me the opportunity to transfer this semester.
That's good.
Yeah. So and now, you know, um, off to University of Louisiana Monroe, and that'll
That's
be in this fall.
That's good. That's good. So it's just good to hear the opportunities that you had. You've been able to learn. I didn't touch on it yet. I guess I'll open the door for IMG as well as even I know you had the one season at University of Houston, but what's
Yeah.
been some of your highlights in your career for you? Some memorable moments on the field. We
Yeah.
talked about the injuries and I don't want to just shine a light on that. I think it's awesome in the fact that it shows your strength. But I
Mhm.
want to talk about what were some of the highlights you remember from IMG even on to your year you played at Houston.
Yeah. I guess start off with when I first moved to IMG. Coach Kim Dean, she was my U15 coach. And, little 13-year-old Jaden Masters coming in. I came in as a forward. So, one thing you will find that that I am I'm almost direct, like especially with when it comes to what I want on the soccer field. So I remember
Uh-huh.
after the first couple practices, we I'm not gonna say we were down on players, but we needed some more defenders. So keep in mind, I came in as a forward. So she comes to me, she like, yo, we need you outside back, right back. I said, I'm not a defender. I'm not a defender. I'm not a defender. I remember calling my parents. I'm like, look, they're trying to change me into a defender. Like, she's like, no, like you're gonna be used in the attack, but you have the speed, you have the aggression. Like, you will. Anyway, safe to say, I ended up having a great season back there.
That's great.
You
That's
know what I
good.
mean. So I think that's funny because now I could play anywhere on the field.
That's
Even this past
good.
collegiate season, they had me down back. They had me last spring. I was playing center back. I played in the midfield. I played, up top, center forward, striker, right? Know. Um, so that definitely opened the door for me to be able to now play anywhere and be the versatile player that I am now. I guess that's the first memory in terms of IMG. I guess I'll fast forward to like the most recent memory. Um, was when we played Dominican Republic in Bermuda back in September, end of September, I want to say end of September, beginning of October, and it was the first time we had played. I don't think it was the first time we played Dominican Republic, but it was the first time we beat Dominican Republic. It was a historic win, and I had scored the lone 2 goals in that game. But it was my first. It was my first international cap since getting injured in 2022 with playing against Jamaica for Bermuda. So,
Wow.
going in, nobody knew me. But coming
Wow.
out, it was like, okay, who is number 21? Who is
Wow.
who is she? Yeah, and then that was my first time playing in front of my parents since 2018. It was almost like it was one of the greatest welcome back moments. Because I was able to play one for my country. That's always a blessing, and I don't want that get underlooked or overlooked. That's a blessing in itself. But two, on home soil, three, playing in front of my family, and then getting the historic win. And being able to say that I scored those 2 goals, to make that history moment.
That's good. That's good. So, I mean, you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to get to that. Like, what has that ultimate experience been like playing for your country, for playing for
Yeah,
Bermuda and everything? What
yeah,
has
no,
that been like?
no, all glory to God, honestly. And I thank my coaches for even allowing me that opportunity. It it's not it's not easy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yes, being from a small island, it's easier to get noticed because it's so small. But just like anywhere else you go, that spot is always up for grabs. You know what I mean? So to be named in the squad after being injured so many times, you know, it just shows, one, they believe in me, but they also trust me enough to put me on the field and represent the country. So it's a blessing, and every single time I'm able to wear Bermuda on my chest, I wear it with pride and honor. It's a blessing, humbly speaking.
All right. All right. So just let's talk about a couple of your goals, whether it's your season coming up at University of Louisiana Monroe or playing for the national team going forward. What are just some of your on the field goals? What are some of your goals?
Yeah. After having my first collegiate season, I think now I definitely know. Um, I have a better idea of what it not necessarily what it takes, because I feel like I always know what it takes, but I guess what comes with it. Um, some days are better, some days are better than others. You're gonna have up and down days, you're gonna have up and down games. But I think one of the main thing is, and I wouldn't even say this is a goal, because this is, maybe it is a goal, maybe it's not. But I think the biggest thing is just believing in myself. And I think once I gain that confidence and have that belief in myself, then I'll be able to get the goals and the assists and the confidence on the field to go and perform and go be great and go, do X, Y, and Z. Um, you know, the coaching staff bringing me in at University of Louisiana Monroe, I remember the first call they had with me, they was able to tell me more about myself than I would have probably been able to tell them. So that, that speaks for itself.
Right.
I'm now leaving an experience where every time I used to mess up on the field, I'm looking at the bench to see who's warming up for me. The first thing they told me on the phone call is you need to play with confidence, but you also need to play for somebody that believes in you, and we believe in you. And I'm like, just to hear that is music to my ears. And that goes the same with my national team coach. I remember when I came back home and I would mess up and I would look at the bench too, and they're like, "Why are you looking at the bench? Go and do it again. Go and try to do it again." So I wouldn't even say I don't want to set no goals. I don't, because I feel like that's when the overthinking happens. And that's when I now get to the field and now I'm holding every standard and I'm like, oh, don't mess up. Don't mess up. But when you mess up, well, now in the back of my head, damn, are you good enough? Like, you know what I mean? Though
Right.
it's human nature.
Right.
You're gonna mess up. It's a part of the game. If you don't mess up, no goals are scored, nothing comes out of it,
Right.
so I think the main thing is going into my this new season is just gaining the confidence and the belief in myself. Obviously they wouldn't be bringing me in if I didn't serve no purpose. Like, they see something in me and now I need to see that in myself.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What is it that Jaden Masters does in her free time?
Nothing. I play my PlayStation a lot, honestly. I'll play FIFA, I'll play Madden, I'll play Fortnite, Call of Duty. Like, man, if I ain't gotta go outside, I'm not one to go out at all. Like, I'm a homebody. If you need to find me, you know where I'm at. Like, and
Okay.
that's 10 times out of 10, really. Unless I'm going to get food or I'm going to get treatment or rehab or practicing, I'm home. I am home. I am home. I like to listen to music. I love to watch sermons and interviews and podcasts. Like we was talking about earlier, just getting viewpoints on different people's life perspectives, right?
Right.
How do they go about things, or what's their daily routines, or what are they doing that got them to this level, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But I stay inside, man.
So I guess it's safe to say that you're definitely a student of the game. It sounds like you're a person that watch other players and just try to, learn from others. Like who are
I
some players that you've watched over your years, other professional players?
To be honest, I think I watch myself more than I watch anybody else.
Okay. Okay.
um, and that's not to say that I don't look at other people's game and wanna, like, okay, cool, let me try that, or what are they doing? But I think I'm my biggest critique. Every game I'm watching that game 4 or 5 times over before I even take the clips to the coach to say, look, what could I have done differently? Um, and it does come back to kick me sometimes
Okay.
because it's done. What am I gonna do? It's done. It's already done. But I watch a lot of. To be honest, I don't watch a lot of women's soccer games. I watch it now. I'm into the NWSL because I have friends that play in the league now, so now it gives me a reason to. But I watch a lot of like overseas, EPL, Europa League, Champions League, La
Okay.
Liga, that type of fast pace, a lot of fast pace. The European game is so much different from the American game. But yeah, I wouldn't pinpoint any player in specific.
Okay.
There are a lot of like forwards that is like, okay, if they do something well, I'm like, maybe I'll try that next game, or maybe I'll try that in practice, see if it works, or see how I can maybe adjust it to my style of play or my game. But there's no, I guess, player that comes to mind to say, well, I want to play like that person. I want to, you know, I feel like I'm versatile enough to be able to play numerous positions, but also play different styles of play as well.
Right. That's good. And I will not let this interview go. Anybody that knows me, I'm strong in my faith. So I know I haven't drilled you much, but you definitely let it seep out. And I've watched some videos. So it's awesome for me. I won't let this interview end without just saying to those that's been able to watch, like again, we're blessed to have another awesome young guest that is strong in faith. And anybody knows when I go out to speak, I'm always telling young people like one thing for me is my foundation. Like I can give you different tips on making better decisions, but I know what works for me, and that's my personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
And that's my foundation. That's what kind of helps me because life is always going to try to push you. You're going to be attacked from different areas. But I think that speaks to what helped you and kept you strong and a person of faith to get you through even the injuries. And again, you quoted, I remember, who was it? The football player. It was Jalen Hurts, who probably said it in the interview sometime back, and then you repeated it today. Just the verse that talks about you may not understand now, but later you will. And so I think it's just so awesome to just see another awesome young guest that I think is proof of just how her strength. A lot of that comes probably from her faith. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's awesome. So continue doing what you're doing, Jaden. I appreciate just being connected to awesome young guests like yourself because I believe our young people need it. Whether it's here in the States or all over the country, we need to see young people that are doing awesome things, not only in school academically, but on the field, but also show that it's okay to be a person of faith while doing it. And so continue doing what you're doing. I'll definitely be praying for you on this end. And thank you for being the example that you're being. We'll get into our last couple questions. I could probably talk for a minute, and I could have easily. I've had some shows where we've kind of veered off, and we talked a lot more word, but we're going to kind of wrap it up with my last couple questions. And one of them would be, how important is it to have positive people in your circle?
Man, take away positive people. How is it important? How important is it to have God-fearing people around you in your circle?
That's good.
And I think that's definitely one of the biggest factors, and especially with me moving into this new season of my life. You know, I don't know, man. Like, I would say these last 6 months have probably been the best 6 months of my life. Me personally being able to build that relationship with God, but also the people around me building their relationship with God as well. My roommate, my best friend, like, she wasn't even into her faith a year ago. Or I would say maybe just over a year. But now she's baptized. Her and I actually got baptized a couple of weeks ago on the same day. So yeah, I just feel like it comes down to mindset and perspective. That's what it ultimately comes down to. And if you're not surrounding yourself with like-minded people, then it's just gonna push you away from your purpose. And like I said, I feel like my purpose is to obviously spread the word of God, but also to inspire people and the next generation to come. I don't keep a big circle. I don't have a lot of friends, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. I think it's a distraction, honestly. That's what it comes down to. Especially if you're surrounding yourself with people that don't have the same mindset as you. But it's very important. It's oh my, that's very, 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 who you surround yourself with is like probably number two after your relationship with God. Definitely who you surround yourself with.
That's good. Good information. And so before we get into the last question, I will ask something that I didn't really touch on. Like, what is it like for you? And I guess it's similar to the student that leave, a state that they're from. How do you? I would assume that a lot of it has to do again with your relationship with God and your faith. But how do you manage? You've done this now since 8th grade, being away from the core of your family.
Yeah, it definitely is hard, and I would say the last Uh, the last, let's say, I'll say like probably the last year. I don't want to say the last year. Let's say the last 9 months. Since about September last year, definitely probably was, I would say, the hardest period. And I was never one to ever get homesick. I actually I'm not the biggest fan of actually going home. I feel like every time I go home, I become complacent. I feel like when I'm out here, I stay grounded. Back home, it's like, well, shoot, I ain't been back home in forever. Might slack off a couple of days, might, fall out of my routine. It's hard, definitely. It's been harder recently. But I know that it's not gonna be this way forever. You know what I mean? I know why I'm out here. I know the sacrifices that my parents made for me to be out here too, but I know that, in the end I'm gonna repay that. And it takes me being out here and getting that degree and pursuing soccer in order for that to happen. Um the upside about it is now they're able to travel out here and watch me play. So I don't see them often, but I know that they're already talking about what games they're gonna come up and watch in the fall. So, to look forward to that, that definitely makes it easier. Because they wasn't able to come and watch me last semester. The upside about it is I was able to go back home a couple of times and play for Bermuda in front of them. So that definitely made it a lot easier. But no, it's not easy at all. Especially I feel like as I get older and start to prioritize and value family more. Because when I'm younger, I mean, yeah, I wanted to be out there. Yeah, I wanted to, soccer, but I feel like the older I got and the more mature I got, that's when I started realizing, family is a big deal. Um, Family's it's a huge deal. So the more I started to prioritize and value family more, I think that's when I started to miss home a little bit more, definitely. And
Okay.
I had a tough season this past semester, so missing home and wanting to go home, it hit even harder. But like I said, God has his plan, and at the end of the day, it's gonna work out and it's gonna play out the way it's supposed to, whether I understand or whether I like it or not.
Okay. So a couple more questions they kind of came about. And we're going to wrap it up, but just I want to ask about your faith because I know never know who's going to watch a specific episode. And so I will ask your growth or your desire to grow in your faith. Was it your upbringing or was it some situations you may have faced throughout your youth or your teen years that kind of helped to kind of lead you there? Where did that for you, your growth in your faith, where did that come, or how
Yeah,
did that come about?
I always grew up in the church. I grew up in the church growing up. My family, they're um we're all Christians,
Okay.
faith based and faith driven. But I would say it was within probably when the doctor told me that he wanted to do the last procedure that he get, and the last procedure was it's an osteotomy. Pretty much, they break your leg and they put a plate, and I have 6, 7 screws in my knee. Um, and hearing somebody tell me, like I said, hearing a coach tell me, well, if I was your parent, I wouldn't want you to go about it that way. um so doubt comes into your mind. And I think throughout that season was when I actually started to resent God. I started to push myself away from him. And it wasn't until I had a situation this past fall that it played out great now. You looking back at it now, it played out great, but in the moment it had me in such a dark place. It had me in such a dark place for so long, for months. And it got to the point I lost 15 pounds. Like, I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I was pushing away my coaches, I was pushing away my family members, I wasn't talking to anybody. And it got to the point where after New Year's of this past year, 2024, I sat with myself. I'm like, you can't be in this hole forever. Like you have to get yourself out of this space that you're in. Like I stopped watching church. I stopped going to church every Sunday. Like I was like, something's got to happen. But at that point, that's when I realized like God is the only person that's going to be able to get me out of this season and this space that I'm in. Like I'm just digging myself into a hole that I can't get out of. Um, started, like I said, started surrounding myself with not many people. I haven't surrounded myself with many people honestly since I've lived out in America, but definitely I went from a circle to a dot, and now I could probably count on my hand, on one hand, how many people I talk to on a daily basis. And I locked in. I got into the Word. I started reading my Bible every day. I started, even trying to. Well, I wouldn't say try, because now I pretty much only listen to gospel music. Started watching sermons instead of I was watching, YouTubers and people's daily lives, and now it's like, nah, this is a season where I need to learn about the God that I serve, and how would he want me to get through this season? And it's not resenting him. That's the total opposite. And I actually heard something the other day. Sarah Jake Roberts, she said in a sermon, God doesn't necessarily agree with everything that goes on in life. He doesn't like that. People are dying or people have cancer. Like he doesn't agree with it. What he agrees with is how you deal with it, and are you gonna lean on him to get you through this, because he can. He's the way maker.
Right.
He's the one that can get you through that, and that definitely stuck with me. I've actually told probably like 3 people that this week. I'm like, look, it doesn't look good right now. It doesn't look good. But and I ain't gonna lie, if you was to have this interview with me 6 months ago, I promise you would have been talking to a different person.
Wow.
Because I wasn't this 6 months ago. I was in a hole 6 months ago. So yeah, I had to lean on him. I had to sit with myself, sit with my thoughts, sit with him, cry about it, talk to him about it, and another thing too was, people tend to always go to the closest person to them with go to God first. Now everything, I pray before I talk, I pray before I do anything, before I make a decision, I'm just going to him. Guide my steps, guide me with how I deal with this situation. Talk with me, talk through me. You feel me? Everything's him now. And I just saw the changes. I saw the changes within like 2 weeks. My roommate came to me and she's like, "This is the happiest I've ever seen you in the last 2 years that I've known you." And right, I knew I was doing something right.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So awesome. So from a career standpoint, outside of soccer, I just love when guests, just touch on it a little bit, because, we don't know what God has for you from the professional standpoint when it comes to soccer. But what are some other things you look at doing outside of the game, or you would like to do outside of the game?
I get this question a lot, man. It's hard. Too many people get mad at me when I say this, because they're like, "That's not true." But too many things interest me. One day I want to be a firefighter. The next day I want to be an EMT. The next day I want to be a strength and conditioning coach. The next day I want to play soccer. Like I'm so all over the place. I be taking pictures. I don't know. I I don't know. Then
Okay.
on the other hand, I want to be a PE teacher. It's so many things that I want to do in life. But I think the number one thing is just to motivate and inspire, and that's number one. And hopefully soon. I've been talking about it for months. People tell me I should start a podcast and talk to people, and I think that's definitely, I want to be able to reach reach the next generation, like and just talk to them, inspire them, and allow my story to speak for itself.
That's good.
So That's a hard question. I want to do so many things. I can't even pinpoint it.
Right. And I want to say this to you, Jaden. I don't think it's a bad thing. I appreciate your transparency because I'm sure I've had guests that have just given me something because I asked the question.
Right.
But I think you continue to repeat this one thing that in regards to our lives and it being, to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
And how much will it help the young person that watches this show that feels like there's something terrible about them because they don't know what they want to do and they're in their last year of college? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's awesome when you're transparent and being a person of faith, you're going to be able to pray about it. God is going to give you direction. And when that time comes that you need to do something, after the sport is done, and that could be years and years from now, I'm sure God will open that door and show that to you, which is
Yeah.
the awesome thing about you being strong in your faith. But I appreciate you being transparent because too often, people feel I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one that don't know what I want to do today. I don't know what I
Mm-hmm.
want to do or where I want to go. And I think when I have a guest like yourself being open and transparent, you're just as much helpful to the young person that may be your age or finishing up in college and
Right.
knowing, okay, I don't know, but maybe take these steps and trying to figure it out and line it up. So I appreciate you being open and kind of touching on that. But I will get into this very last question because I got a book and I'll keep looking down and asking you questions. But the last question I always ask every guest: who or what is it that inspires you most in life?
I just think being from a small island is just, you know, being able to provide that opportunity for the next generation to come because Bermuda's so small. Um, you know, that definitely plays a part of it. Obviously my faith plays a huge part in it as well. Um, and I think also too just telling people I can't do something. It drives me. It I eat it. Like I eat that up. I love when somebody tells me I can't do something because when I do it, then I'm gonna look at you in your face and tell you I just did that.
Right.
But I definitely can't pinpoint that. My parents definitely inspire me every day. I wouldn't be where I am today without them. They sacrifice even to this day. They sacrificed when I was, still in the womb, right? That plays a part. Um, and yeah, man, just like I said, just I think the biggest take on it is just, and I said it numerous times, right? Just inspiring who's after me. Um, um, Currently while playing and when I'm done playing. Because it's so much bigger than the sport. It's so much bigger than the sport.
That's good. That's good. So that was the last question, but I have to ask you now: have you had opportunities to do any training or mentoring, other athletes, whether back home or even locally, as close to some of the Houston or even around IMG? Have you had opportunities to do any training yet?
Well, in terms of it's funny that we talk about that because I'm going to IMG next week to start training a little bit before I go home. But I was talking to one of my former coaches, and he wants me to come in and talk to the camp.
Okay.
Just about my experience. What was my transition period like? But no, and I tell my roommate all the time, like I just want to get my story out there. I feel like once my story's out there, then it's gonna open the doors for me to now talk to so many people. And I keep praying about it, because I want these opportunities, and I thank God for you. You know what I mean?
Appreciate it.
Like even when I seen your message, I didn't answer right away, and I apologize because I'm
No, you're
actually
good.
I'm horrible with answering. I'm horrible with it. But you know what I mean? It's a step in the right direction. It definitely is a step in the right direction. So I pray for more opportunities like this because I feel like the more I'm able to talk and the more I'm able to get my story out there, the more people it's gonna reach. And okay, well, who's Jaden and what's her story and how did she overcome it? Well, let's talk about it. And even having a podcast that's big. I've had people tell me that for the last couple of years, like, yo, you you should. Like, you could talk about it. You have many athletes and non-athletes that, are going through these same day trials and tribulations. You know what I mean? So yeah, the opportunities come every now and then.
Right.
Um, but every time they come, I'm more than grateful for 'em.
That's good. That's good. Well, everybody watching, I appreciate you watching. And like every show, I always say it. It is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. So I ask you all the time. It means nothing if you just hear the show and it goes in one ear and out the other. If you're an older adult and you're not playing sports and you know a young athlete, it does no good if you watch the show and don't share it with some athletes in your area. We have another great example of someone that's doing an awesome job in life, in the sport that she's playing, but she's a young lady of faith. So she just gives us another great example. And so I ask that you'll continue to watch with us and continue to share shows like this when we're blessed to have great examples like Miss Jaden Masters on with us. But I thank you all for watching. Thank you, Jaden, for joining us again.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I thank God for it, and I thank God for you. I appreciate you truly.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I ask that you all continue to join us as we go out and up. We'll see you next episode.